Hey everyone, ready for something truly mind-bending?
I think we've got something special lined up.
Right. Today we're diving deep into ancient yoga practices, supernormal abilities.
Sometimes called Siddhis.
Yep, cities, and how modern science is,
Taking a look.
yeah, taking a look at these extraordinary claims.
Right.
We're going to be looking at excerpts from Dean Radin's book,
Supernormal.
Supernormal Science, Yoga, and the Evidence for Extraordinary Psychic Abilities.
That's a mouthful.
It is, it is a long title.
Yeah.
And some audio clicks as well.
Always helps to hear these things, right?
Absolutely.
It's a topic that really challenges
Yeah,
our understanding of reality.
it does.
But by the end of this,
By the end.
you'll have the knowledge to examine these claims, think critically about them,
For yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're talking about things like,
knowing where a hidden object is,
having visions of the future.
walking on water,
Oh, yeah.
that kind of stuff.
The kind of stuff that just captures our imaginations.
Right. Legends, sci-fi, comic books.
I mean, who hasn't wanted to have superpowers at some point?
Everyone wants superpowers, yeah.
And you know what's interesting is that most people around the world
Really?
believe in at least one of these supernormal powers.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, right? What is it about human consciousness that makes us
So drawn.
so drawn to these ideas? Yeah, and that's where the ancient yoga tradition
yeah,
comes in.
Oh,
They call these extraordinary abilities Siddhis.
Siddhis.
And
Okay.
they believe they can be achieved through specific practices.
So I'm really curious about this because,
Yeah.
most people associate yoga with
Exercise and stress reduction.
exactly.
Yeah.
Studios are popping up everywhere these days.
Yeah, it's super popular, right?
It is, yeah. So how does that connect to these?
Yeah, how do you get from downward dog to walking on water?
Yeah. Seemingly impossible, right?
Right.
Abilities.
You're right. Yoga is widely known for its physical and mental benefits.
Yeah. But historically,
Okay.
it was seen as a path
A path.
to achieve really profound insights into the nature of reality.
Oh, wow.
And unlocking these Siddhis, it was all part of that.
Part of that path.
Yeah. And there's this ancient text, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras,
Okay.
which describes this whole path in a really systematic way.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So how does modern science, view these cities?
Well, there's definitely skepticism,
I can imagine.
especially in Western academic culture.
Makes sense.
Serious scientific investigation of these phenomena is still pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to reconcile these abilities with our understanding of physics and the laws of nature.
And the laws of nature, yeah.
But what about cultures like India, where these abilities are often considered just a normal
Like an everyday
and everyday
part of life.
aspect of consciousness?
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if science, with its focus on the material world,
Yeah.
might be missing something.
Well, it's definitely a point of tension, right?
It is.
And to understand it better, we're going to look at some scientific evidence that challenges our assumptions.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dean Radin,
Okay.
whose work we're exploring in this deep dive, he argues that the scientific method can be applied to studying cities.
Really?
And he's found some pretty compelling results.
Oh, wow. Okay, so for example,
Okay.
he talks about remote viewing experiments where someone tries to describe a distant location that they can't physically see.
Right. So how do those experiments actually work?
Yeah.
So basically, you've got a sender
Okay.
who focuses on a specific location.
Okay.
It could be a photograph. It could be a real place.
Uh-huh.
And then a receiver who's in a different location
Got it.
tries to describe what the sender is seeing.
Okay.
Now, the receiver is isolated
Okay.
in a controlled environment
Makes sense.
to make sure they're not getting any clues through their normal senses.
Right, so they're not cheating.
Right.
Got it.
And then those descriptions are compared to the target location.
Okay.
And they analyze it statistically
Statistically.
to see if there's any correlation.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And Radin found some pretty incredible results with these experiments.
He did. Some of these studies, the odds against chance were exceeding 1 billion to 1.
1 billion to 1.
Yeah, so to put that in perspective,
Okay.
that's like flipping a coin and getting heads 50 times in a row.
Wow, that is wild.
And even some skeptics have admitted that these findings are
Hard to ignore.
hard to ignore, yeah.
Wow, that is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that deity yoga study that you mentioned.
Oh, yeah?
You said that Tibetan monks were able to dramatically increase their visual memory capacity after practicing.
After practicing this specific type of meditation.
So,
Yeah, it's a fascinating study.
Yeah.
So in Data Yoga, practitioners visualize these complex deities
Oh,
in very intricate detail.
got it.
And the study found that after practicing this visualization, the monks could remember these incredibly complex images with such accuracy that it really surprised neuroscientists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that suggest about, like, the power of visualization?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that researchers are definitely exploring.
Okay.
But this study suggests that focused visualization practices can have these profound effects
Really?
on our cognitive abilities. Yeah.
On our cognitive abilities.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if we've only just, like, scratched the surface
Right.
of what the human mind is capable of.
Yeah, totally.
But why are we so drawn to the idea of...
Why do we want?
Yeah, why do we want to believe?
Well, some skeptical psychologists,
Okay.
like Richard Wiseman and Michael Shermer,
Okay.
they argue that our brains are wired to find patterns.
Even in random events.
Randomness, yeah. And this tendency to see patterns
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes lead us to believe in things that
aren't real.
aren't real, exactly.
Right. But couldn't there also be bias in...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
In skeptical inquiry.
In skeptical inquiry itself, right?
Right.
Dean Radin suggests that some skeptics, like Wiseman,
Yeah.
may sometimes kind of present evidence selectively.
Cherry pick.
Yeah, they focus on studies that support their skepticism
Right.
and kind of omit those that don't.
It's like you only see what you want to see.
Exactly. Yeah, and it makes me think, like,
Yeah.
if someone has built their entire career on a certain worldview,
Right.
how hard would it be to admit that you might be wrong?
Oh, very hard. Very hard.
Yeah.
It's a natural human tendency, I think,
Yeah.
to want to be right.
Right.
To want to
Stick to what you know.
stick to what you know, exactly.
It's a really important question to consider.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes me think about those mystical experiences that people report
Across cultures.
across cultures and time periods.
Time periods, yeah.
Perhaps those experiences offer a different way of understanding reality.
A way that goes beyond
Yeah. Beyond our...
current scientific models.
Right.
Right.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it brings us to kind of a key question.
Yeah, what are these mystical experiences?
Yeah, what are they?
And how do they relate to these
Siddhis.
to the cities, to these abilities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
William James,
William
a
James.
pioneering psychologist.
Yeah.
He described some key characteristics of mystical experiences
Okay.
that are remarkably consistent across different cultures and traditions.
Really?
Yeah, he talked about ineffability.
Oh, ineffability.
The feeling that the experience is just beyond words,
Okay.
noetic quality,
Yeah.
a sense of deep knowing or revelation.
Like a sudden insight.
Yeah, a sudden insight, like you just know something.
Wow.
Transiency, the understanding that the experience is temporary,
Okay.
and passivity, a feeling that something is happening to you
Okay.
rather than you controlling it.
So you're not in charge.
You're not in charge, you're kind of along for the ride.
Interesting. So yoga suggests that cultivating these mystical states
Yeah.
might be the key to unlocking these supernormal abilities.
So it's not just about, like,
Stretching.
stretching and,
Yeah.
posing.
It's about something deeper.
Yeah, there's a deeper level to it.
Yeah.
But it's not just yoga, though, right?
Right.
Think about shamanism,
Shamanism.
where practitioners use rituals and techniques
To enter altered states.
to enter these altered states of consciousness and connect with spirits.
Yeah. And potentially access, like,
Hidden knowledge.
hidden knowledge or power.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in Catholicism, there are accounts of charisms, like levitation
Or levitation.
or bilocation, which
Yeah.
seem to defy the laws of physics.
Yeah, it's like they're in two places at once.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or Tibetan Buddhism with its traditions of precognitive dreams.
Uncognitive dreams and out-of-body experiences.
Yeah, and past life memories.
Yeah, it's like all these different cultures.
All these different cultures and traditions are pointing to the same thing.
To something beyond.
To something beyond, yeah.
Something more.
It seems that across cultures,
Throughout history.
yeah, people have reported experiences that suggest there might be,
More to reality.
yeah, more to reality than we currently understand.
Right.
That's pretty profound.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like we're seeing a revival
Yeah.
of interest in these practices.
Yeah, it feels like there's this...
And even science is starting to look at psychedelics again,
Oh, wow.
which can kind of induce these altered states.
Yeah, it's like our view of reality is starting to shift a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a purely materialistic worldview. This idea that everything can be explained by physical processes
Right.
just isn't enough.
To explain human consciousness.
Yeah, and even Einstein
Yeah.
believed in this cosmic religious feeling
Wow.
that he felt was kind of essential for his breakthroughs.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to this idea of biocentrism,
Biocentrism, okay.
which really challenges the idea that the universe exists independently of consciousness.
Whoa.
It's a radical idea,
It is.
but it's gaining some traction
It is, yeah.
as we learn more about the interconnectedness
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah, everything seems to be more and more connected than we thought.
It's all a web, right?
Yeah, it's a giant web.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the cities themselves.
Cities, yeah.
Because Dean Radin kind of categorizes them into two main types.
Okay, what are they?
The mundane and the mind-blowing.
Mundane and mind-blowing. Okay, I like it. I like it.
So can you explain the difference?
Sure. So the mundane cities are those that we might consider
Like psychic.
psychic, like telepathy or clairvoyance.
Okay, so knowing what someone's thinking or seeing things that are far away.
Exactly. And these abilities,
Yeah.
while they're extraordinary,
Mm.
they might be a little easier to think about
Right.
within a scientific framework.
So these are things that people sometimes report, like, in their everyday lives, like having a dream that comes true.
Right. Or just knowing something.
Or just knowing something and you don't know how you know it.
Exactly.
That's happened to me, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then there are the more advanced cities that really
Stretch the boundaries.
stretch the boundaries
of what we consider possible.
Think levitation,
Levitation.
invisibility,
Yeah.
even like
Mm.
manipulating matter with the mind.
That sounds like superpowers straight out of a comic book.
I know, right?
And Radin even mentions a story in Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography
Okay.
where Yogananda sees his guru, like, materialize a palace out of thin air,
What?
complete with blazing diamonds.
Blazing diamonds. Come on.
I know it sounds crazy,
That's wild.
but it's easy to dismiss these stories as pure fantasy. But the intriguing thing is,
What's that?
similar abilities are described
Yeah.
in mystical traditions all over the world.
So it's not just one.
It's not just one culture or tradition.
Right.
It's like this underlying theme.
Yeah, this idea that humans have this extraordinary potential
Yeah, that seems to have resonated with people across
across time.
time and cultures.
And it's interesting to consider this,
Yeah.
given that even within the scientific community, there's this growing recognition
That we don't know everything.
that our current understanding of reality might be incomplete.
Right, like quantum physics has already,
Quantum physics has blown our minds.
yeah, blown the lid off of what we thought we knew.
A world that's far stranger and more interconnected than we imagined.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
It seems like we may be on the cusp of a new era of understanding
A new paradigm.
where science and spirituality
God.
aren't seen as like
Opposing forces.
opposing, yeah, but as
Two sides of the same coin.
exact.
Or different ways of understanding the same reality.
But let's talk about how we can actually apply
Okay.
the scientific method to studying these abilities.
Right, because if we can test these abilities in a really rigorous way, that could be revolutionary
It could change everything.
for our understanding of human potential.
And that's what's so important about Dean Radin's work.
Yeah, he's been a pioneer in this field
Yeah.
for decades,
Really?
applying rigorous scientific methods to study phenomena like
Like telepathy.
telepathy, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, you name it.
And he's not just some, like,
For fringe researcher,
yeah, fringe research.
he's got a Ph.D. from the University of Illinois.
Okay.
He's published hundreds of scientific papers.
Wow.
He's currently the chief scientist at the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
So he's bringing serious scientific credentials.
He's the real deal.
Yeah. So can you give an example of what this research actually looks like?
Sure. So imagine
Yeah.
you're designing an experiment to test for something like telepathy.
Okay.
One common approach
Yeah.
involves a sender and a receiver.
Okay. Like we talked about before.
Exactly. And the sender tries to mentally transmit information,
Okay.
like a picture or a symbol, to the receiver, who is in a different location,
To prevent any sensory cues.
to prevent any cheating.
Right. Got it.
And the receiver tries to guess what the sender is transmitting.
Okay.
And then they analyze the results to see if there's any evidence of information transfer,
That goes beyond chance.
beyond what you would expect just by random guessing.
And Rodin has found statistically significant results.
He has. Some of the results are so statistically significant
Wow.
that the odds against chance are just astronomical.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but as with any scientific finding,
Replication is key.
replication is key.
We need to see it over and over again.
Exactly. The more these results can be replicated
Yeah.
by independent researchers
Using rigorous methods.
using rigorous methods, the stronger the evidence becomes.
What about critiques from the skeptical community?
Well, there are always critiques in science.
Right,
Healthy skepticism is important.
right.
But some of the criticisms leveled against psi research,
Psi research?
yeah, the study of psychic phenomena, seem to be more about ideology than evidence.
Really?
Yeah, for example, some skeptics will say
Mm-hmm.
that positive results are due to methodological flaws or statistical errors.
Okay.
But often those claims don't really hold up
Interesting.
when you look at them carefully.
Radin also points out that sometimes skeptics will
Cherry pick.
they'll cherry pick, focus only on studies that support their position.
And ignore the ones that don't.
It's like confirmation bias in action.
It is. And it reminds us how important it is
To be objective.
to evaluate all the evidence
To carefully.
and to be aware of our own biases.
On all sides.
On all sides, absolutely. And this applies to any field, not just the paranormal.
Right. It's a good rule of thumb for life in general.
Exactly.
Who's funding the research?
Yeah.
What are their motivations? Are the methods sound?
All good questions to ask.
But let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about the potential implications of these findings. Because if even a small fraction of the evidence for Siddhis is valid,
Yeah.
it suggests our current scientific models are incomplete.
It does raise some pretty fundamental questions
Yeah.
about the nature of reality,
About the role of consciousness.
about the role of consciousness.
If our minds are not just confined to our brains,
Right.
it opens up all sorts of possibilities.
It really does. It's mind-blowing to think that consciousness might be
Yeah.
a fundamental aspect of reality.
Right. Not just a byproduct of the brain.
Could it be that the universe is more like a giant mind
Whoa.
in a giant machine,
Than a giant machine. Yeah.
as some physicists and philosophers have suggested?
It's a pretty profound concept to contemplate.
It is. And it resonates with the ideas in many mystical and spiritual traditions.
Right. But it's important to remember
Yeah.
that science and spirituality
They're,
aren't necessarily in conflict.
they can be complementary,
Yeah.
different perspectives on the same reality.
And Rodin even mentions how some scientific breakthroughs have been inspired by these mystical insights.
You know, Einstein,
Yeah.
he talked about a cosmic religious feeling
Yeah.
that he believed was essential for his work.
It highlights the value of exploring different ways of knowing and understanding.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the most profound discoveries
Yeah.
come from stepping outside of our conventional thinking.
Stepping outside the box.
So if we entertain the possibility of these cities,
Okay.
what does it mean for our understanding of human potential?
Yeah, are we all just superheroes waiting to unlock our powers?
Right. Is that what we're talking about?
That might be overstating it a bit,
Okay.
but it does suggest that our capabilities might be far greater
Than we currently believe.
than we currently believe. Yeah. And it's important to remember
Yeah.
that Rodin emphasizes the importance of practice when it comes to developing these abilities.
Okay.
So he talks about how practices like meditation, yoga, and other contemplative disciplines, they can help us refine our attention
Yeah.
and cultivate those deeper states of awareness
Okay.
where these cities might become more accessible.
So it's not about just wishing for these abilities.
No,
It's
They're
about,
putting in the work,
yeah, cultivating the inner conditions.
right? Training the mind
Yeah.
that might allow them to emerge.
Just as you would train the body.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that training might involve not just meditation and yoga,
Right. It might involve
ethical living,
ethical living. Okay.
cultivating compassion, and living in alignment with our highest values.
So it's like a holistic
It's a holistic approach.
to developing
The full spectrum.
a full spectrum of human potential.
Precisely.
And this resonates with all the wisdom traditions that we've been discussing.
It does. But it's important to remember
Yeah.
this is still a young field of research.
Right.
We still have a lot to learn
Yeah.
about these abilities
Yeah.
and the nature of consciousness itself.
That's what makes it so exciting.
It's an adventure.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the frontier
Of a new understanding.
of a
and
new understanding of reality.
where science and spirituality
Come together.
come together.
And it has the potential to transform our understanding of
What it means to be human.
what it means to be human.
Exactly.
It really is a fascinating journey,
It is.
this whole exploration.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
But as we kind of, delve deeper into these extraordinary abilities,
Uh-huh.
we have to think about the potential downsides as well.
That's a good point.
Right. It's like the saying goes,
What's that?
with great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
Right.
And, the yoga tradition,
Okay.
It specifically cautions against becoming attached to these abilities
Right.
or using them for selfish purposes.
Because if someone were to develop these powers, it seems like it could
So go ahead.
lead to ego inflation and all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. They see the cities as a potential distraction
Distraction.
on the path to true enlightenment,
Okay.
which is really about transcending the ego altogether.
So the real goal is not to, like, gain superpowers, but to achieve a higher state of consciousness and understanding.
Right.
But what about the potential benefits of these abilities?
That's a good question.
Could they be used to help humanity in some way?
It's worth considering.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could harness these abilities for
For healing,
healing, conflict resolution.
solving global challenges.
Yeah, all the problems facing the world.
Could we tap into,
And if there's this collective wisdom
a collective wisdom or higher consciousness
that could guide us,
that could guide us toward
a better future,
a more
a
peaceful,
more sustainable future.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of spiritual teachers
Yeah.
and visionaries have talked about that very idea.
But it also raises ethical questions, doesn't it?
Of course.
Who would decide how these abilities are used?
Right, and how do you prevent them from...
From falling into the wrong hands.
Yeah, these are crucial questions.
Yeah.
That we, as a society,
As a society,
we really need to start grappling with.
thinking about.
Because if these abilities are real,
Yeah.
they have the potential to transform
Everything.
not just our understanding of ourselves,
But also.
but also the way we interact with each other
Right.
and the world around us.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But that's what makes this topic so fascinating.
I know, it really challenges us to expand our thinking,
To question our assumptions.
to be open to possibilities that might seem a
Outlandish.
little out there.
Yeah.
But isn't that the essence of the scientific spirit?
To be open to new evidence.
Yeah.
Constantly revise our understanding.
And the world.
And to never stop exploring.
It's the mysteries of the universe.
And that spirit of exploration is what the deep dive is all about.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of cities and supernormal abilities,
What have we learned?
what is the one key takeaway
Well, one thing
that you want our listeners to remember?
I would say,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to question what you've been taught.
Okay.
Be open to the possibility
Yeah.
that there's more to reality
That meets the eye.
than we can see and touch.
Right. And don't dismiss the wisdom of ancient traditions
Just because
just because they don't fit into.
our current scientific paradigms.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if even a small fraction of what we've explored today is true,
Yeah.
the implications for understanding human potential are truly profound.
It's worth thinking about.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us on this mind-bending exploration
It's been a journey.
of yoga, supernormal abilities, and the frontiers of human consciousness.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Yeah.
And we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity,
Got you thinking.
inspired you to
Keep questioning.
keep questioning.
Keep exploring.
Keep diving deep into the mysteries of the universe.
There's always more to discover.
Until next time.